I had a pretty solid childhood when it came to television. Hi guys, welcome back to another Nerd Rants video, specifically another childhood favorites, I think part 7. And I told you so. It's not Phineas and Ferb, it's Danny Phantom. I called it. Oh man. Yeah. So, rewatched Danny Phantom. I literally finished the last couple episodes last night and went, perfect! I can make my next Nerd Rants video about this. So, yeah. Danny Phantom. Yeah, this is one of the shows that's been so long since I watched it that I didn't remember most of what happened. I just had very vivid memories about the plot and the characters. And like Evil Danny showed up for that one episode with the whole time travel stuff, and I had very, very vivid memories of the design for that character. But yeah, I didn't remember like Plasmius or any of the bigger plot points. I just remembered characters and the theme song and like the ghost powers. I remembered very little, and so it was basically watching the show for the first time again. And it was very, very fun. I enjoyed it. It was great. The entire concept of the show with ghost powers and the ghost zone and like ghost hunters and all of the stuff, the crazy stuff that he goes through, it's actually really, really dark. But because it's a kid's show, the way it's portrayed is very ridiculous. Because, yeah, I think they only specifically reference or mention death in the Evil Danny episode. Because Evil Danny is created, in future Evil Danny is created by his family and then his 2 best friends dying. And that's the only time you reference death. But it's a show about ghosts. So the implication of death is just constantly there all the time. But yeah, it's a very enjoyable show. It's very, very much enjoyable. It has all kids shows, but it's kind of got a similar feel to Phineas and Ferb, where each episode is pretty much the exact same thing. It starts out normal day, ghost attacks, they defeat the ghost, end of the episode. They even make a joke about it. They even make a joke about the rhythm of it. Because Danny's sister finds out in season 2, and then she's trying to help them, and he's like, there's a whole rhythm to it. We fight ghosts, we fight ghosts, we go do some banter between me and the ghost, we capture him, and then we learn some sort of lesson about honesty. And that's every single episode. And it's kind of funny that they make fun of it. Yeah, but it's still super enjoyable because all of the ghosts are very different. We have a Skulker, who's a tiny little thing in a big mech suit that is just a hunter of the ghost zone, and so he hunts down his prey and mounts their pelts or heads on their wall, and he gets a fixation on Danny. So that's fun. He's recurring. We have Technus, who controls technology. He's recurring and kind of annoying. Just because of his voice, which is the point, I'm sure, but like his voice is kind of annoying. I'm trying to think of the main reoccurring ones. Plasmius, obviously, because he's just the overarching villain throughout the entire series. We also have Undergrowth. He's not super reoccurring, but he's very cool. He's just a ghost made out of plants, so he can regenerate himself, and he can create a mind divine which takes control of humans. And so his power is very interesting, and his whole goal is to just turn the world back into a global jungle. Yeah. Oh gosh. There's like Johnny 13 and his girlfriend Kitty. They're recurring. There's Ember, who has like musical ghost powers. Yeah, there's lots of ghosts. They're all very interesting. There's the box ghost who just controls boxes and is the comedic relief villain, and until he gets Pandora's box. And then he actually poses a threat. Oh man. There's also Nocturne, who puts people to sleep and feeds on their dreams. There's the Ghost King, who's just the most powerful because he has like magical artifacts, ghostly artifacts that give him insane power. Fright Night, who has a sword that when it cuts you, it sends you to a realm filled with your worst fears, which could be a terrifying episode, but you know, the kids show, so they played it off as like math equations and spiders and whatever. But that would be horrifying. That would be a horrifying episode to have realistically portrayed. But yeah, it's lots of ghosts, lots of cool powers. I feel like we sort of have a love-hate relationship with Danny Fenton / Danny Phantom, because he's such a cocky idiot. But, you know, he's 14, so understandable. It's very much believable. But at the same time, he also has his moments where he's just a great person. Yeah, no, I basically have a love-hate relationship with Danny Phantom, which is very much akin to my relationship with most teenagers. I'm sorry to the teenagers, but you're all a handful. I can't do it most of the time. Man, yeah, my threshold is like mature teenagers and adults, like upper high school and adults, and then children, toddlers, children. And those are the ages that I can feel comfortable interacting with. But like, elementary is iffy, but middle school to freshman, sophomore-ish, depending on the maturity of the child. I don't know how people who deal with them do it, honestly. It's... ugh. Anyway, that's enough of that. Yeah, so Danny, who goes from being a douche to being a cool, great guy. We have Tucker, who's a techno geek, and that is his entire personality. That is who he is, which is great. And then we have Sam, who is the goth love interest, and it's Recycle a Vegetarian, I guess, which in terms today would just be like vegan. It's like they describe it as she doesn't eat anything with a face on it, so you know, I guess vegans. But yes, they're all very different, which is cool, and seeing their dynamic and how they interact and how they work together despite and because of those differences is very cool. Jazz, Danny's sister, is the Brainiac, the super hyper Brainiac who tries too hard to help people. So throwing her dynamic into their team that they've figured out how to work and have this basically well-oiled machine, and then we're essentially throwing a wrench into that. And it's seeing a conflict and how they resolve it in, kids show logic. It's great. Daddy's parents, Jack's an idiot. Jack is his dad, and then Maddie, his mom, is the competent one. That's fun. They're also ghost hunters, which is a cool dynamic, with Danny being terrified to tell him anything because of the constant threats from his dad that he's going to dissect the Danny Phantom molecule by molecule. Yeah. And then, so all the characters are very interesting. Honestly, the animation is really cool, just style-wise, and how he uses his powers and all that. His powers are cool because Danny can go intangible, fly, go invisible, has a ghost sense, which is also cool. Has ghost beams, I guess you would call them. And eventually ends up with freeze ray, freeze vision, whatever. So that's also fun. But yeah, the powers are cool. Oh, his ghostly wail, which is kind of like a canary cry, but ghostly. But yeah, his character's cool, powers cool, ghosts are cool. The dynamic of all the characters and how they interact and how their differences play a part in their relationships and all of that is also very cool. The animation is great and honestly very, very pretty animation. Then Plasmius. He's a huge part of the series, so we gotta talk specifically about Plasmius. So he is Danny's dad's college buddy who gets infected with ghost DNA because of Danny's dad. And so he is also half ghost, half human, and has basically the same powers as Danny, except stronger, because he's been had it for 20 years or something. Which, 2 more powers he has. Danny can make ecto shields, and eventually figures out how to multiply himself. Because he sees Plasmius do it, and then it's I need to learn this so I can beat him. So yeah, Plasmius is pretty much the climax villain of this first season, because he's the most powerful one and pretty much that we face in the first season. And then in the second season, he's still there and he's still orchestrating a lot of what's happening. But Danny's gotten more powerful, so now he's more of a match for Plasmius, and so then Plasmius has to again orchestrate other things with more powerful ghosts or more ghosts so that he can beat Danny. And then by the third one, Danny gets too powerful and they figure out, despite all of Plasmius's conniving and using his human form and duplication and all that to twist people's view of who he is, they eventually beat him because of Plasmius's own cocky stupidity. Because, he is. And he gets stranded in space, and it's great. Plasmius he's a solid villain, and with the backstory and stuff, he's a very good one to have, just pulling the strings pretty much throughout the entire series. And he's pretty hateable. which is great. It's having a hateable villain is great, because there's the relatable villains that we feel sorry for because of backstory and whatever else, And then there's just the hateable villains who don't necessarily have a super sad backstory, but they chose evil anyway. And so they're just super, super hateable because they're just crap people. Run it in. Anyway, we should also talk about Valerie. She's very much a side character, doesn't show up a whole lot, but her father's a scientist at Axiom Labs, which is like the big laboratory company in the world, I guess, in this universe. Because indirectly, Danny Phantom indirectly causes her dad to get fired. And so they are, going through all this, and has to get jobs in order to pay their bills and all of the fun stuff that goes with, poverty. And so then she has a vendetta against Danny Phantom, and Plasmius, being, the evil mastermind that he is, gives her technology to hunt ghosts. And so we have her in several episodes showing up during one of Danny's fights to attack him and trying to capture him and it gets to a point where she's essentially trying to destroy him. But she's a very interesting character as well, just because of a lot of the ghost hunters that we see, you don't necessarily get the reason for why they're fighting ghosts. Like, the Fentons are just obsessed with ghosts. There are 2 government agents that are ghost hunters, and it's like the government told them to do it. They don't actually care. And then there's a few other groups that we see that you don't get reasons for, but we get the whole backstory with Valerie and see all these legitimate reasons for her not to like ghosts and to want to hunt ghosts. But we also get Danny's side of the story and see the misunderstanding behind it. And him trying to explain that without revealing his identity. Because that's another cool dynamic, is him interacting with the same people in both identities, especially Valerie, because there's a whole part of the storyline where they're both interested in each other. But when they're not just at school talking, they're off fighting each other. So yeah, the dynamics of him interacting with people normally and him interacting with people as Danny Phantom and trying to make it, not obvious who he is also a very cool facet of the story. And then we should talk about Danielle Phantom. Plasmius, being Plasmius, tries to clone Danny. Because Danny's getting more powerful. He's like, I can't beat him. He's, stopped everything I've thrown at him. So I need to fight fire with fire. So he tries to clone him, but he can't get it right. And the result is he has all these unstable clones that the more they use their powers, the faster they destabilize and just disintegrate into ectoplasm. Like I said, the concepts of the show are dark. But anyway, the most viable one he creates is basically just a little girl version of Danny, named Danielle. And so their dynamic is great, because Danny gets all protective of her after she saves him and goes against Plasmius and saves him, and makes choices for her own, betrays Plasmius because she realizes he doesn't actually care about me. He's using me to get the information he needs to make an actual clone that will be stable. And so Danny getting very protective of her, and saving her, and her vice versa. And then she flies off because she's like, I'm gonna go be my own person now. But she's still unstable. And so eventually it comes back around to that, and them figuring out how to stabilize her so that she doesn't have to worry about using her powers. She's also a very cool character, and we don't get to see a whole lot of her, which is a little bit sad. But yeah. And then we have, and what was interesting is we had, generally all the episodes were like 22, 23 minutes long, and then every once in a while, there was, I think there might have been one in each season, they had one like 40-minute long episode to cover big storyline that's happening, because one of them was Evil Danny, because, friends and family die, so he goes to Plasmius, and through a series of very unfortunate events, he fuses with Plasmius's ghost version, or his ghost half and Plasmius's ghost half fuse, and become a monstrous evil version of Danny Phantom. And so them trying to stop that and change the future, that's a whole 40-minute long episode. Another one is the series finale, where they're trying to stop essentially an anti-ghost asteroid from destroying the entire Earth. There was another one. I can't remember if it was the Undergrowth episode or not. It may have been the Undergrowth episode. But yeah, I think there was one for each season. And those were very fun. Especially because the first time I wasn't expecting it. And so I got, halfway into it and went, the episode's still going. And that's when I finally tapped the screen and realized, oh, it's a 40-minute long episode. Not complaining, just wasn't expecting it. But yes, this is a very enjoyable show. Even though it's a kids show, it's still great. That's one of the awesome things about shows from my childhood, is pretty much all of them I can still watch as an adult and go, yep, I watched that, I'm proud of that, that's great, that is good television. And meanwhile, a lot of kids shows nowadays, you watch them and it's very much just for the kids, and so quality is just not great, because why would we need to make good quality? It's a kids show, the kids don't care. And so, yeah. Which is unfortunate, because also on the flip side of it, we don't have G-rated movies anymore. It's all PG, and because they're trying to make it appeal also to the adults in the audience. So this duality of having movie companies trying to appeal more to the adults in children's movies, and children's shows not being as enjoyable for adults anymore. I don't know if that's an accessibility thing or a money thing. I don't know how shows get their money. But anyway, yeah. All the shows I watched as a child were just fantastic. I say that as these are the ones I remember. I'm sure I watched stupid shows. I watch stupid shows now. But I had a pretty solid childhood when it came to television. Because we had all of the ones I've made videos about, plus Phineas and Ferb, which I still need to make a video of for. I'm sorry I haven't yet. There was also just Bob Ross painting, the Bob Ross painting show. Y'all know who Bob Ross is anymore? He's great. That was what we watched at my grandma's house. It was fantastic, with their block television laying on the floor because it was in a cabinet under the counter. It was great. It's just, yeah. Anyway, those are all my thoughts on Danny Phantom. This one's a little bit shorter than the other ones, but this is a very simple show, so there's not a whole lot to unpack. Characters were great. Storyline was fantastic, despite the somewhat repetitiveness of the episodes. It was always interesting. All of the ghosts and their powers were cool. The animation is just very pretty. And yeah, just all of these concepts are super cool, super dark, but played off as childish because children's show, and so it's just super great. But yeah, if you haven't watched this show, I highly recommend it. I'm sorry if I spoiled so many things for you. But yeah, drop your thoughts in the comments along with any requests that you might have. I post videos every Wednesday and Saturday, and I'll see you all next time.